So tax rises were expected. We always knew that they were coming down the line, including a rise on capital gains tax. And to what extent do you think this rise in capital gains tax will impact the next generation's willingness to invest? Do you think it will put them off, or do you think it's not so much of an issue?
Yeah, well, I guess again, it's like a good story and a difficult one at the same time, because there are young people who are in full-time jobs working, and there are a lot of them who are doing that. And for those people, they won't have an increase in income tax. There won't be an increase in national insurance tax, and so therefore on their pay slips, actually, there is not going to be an increase in tax, although tax rises were expected. So that's a real positive story for those young people who are in work, of which there are many. And then when we think about this kind of new type of working and this new appetite for side hustles and investing, particularly in this digital age that we live in, clearly the increases in capital gains tax don't serve as an encouragement to that, because actually there's been an increase in tax on the lowest band and on the highest capital gains tax thresholds. So it is something that perhaps will serve as a word of caution to people that are getting into this world. What I would say and what I would suggest is, as a first thing, you should open up that £20,000 tax-free ISA, because that's why it's very important, and that's why you need it, because you are exempt from these tax increases. And so if you are thinking about investing, and if you are an investor, first of all, make sure your first account is that tax-free ISA, but also to know, and this is where things get complicated, that there is a tax-free allowance on the first few thousand profits. I think it's around 3,000. And then if you start making significant amounts of money, that's where the taxes are. So I guess my takeaway from that is, for the people who are already in the investment world making significant amounts of profit or decent amounts of profit, it will be discouraging for them to see those tax increases. But if you're someone who is looking into this and is trying to get into this, it shouldn't discourage you, because you'll be on the kind of allowances, the tax-free allowances, and so you shouldn't be discouraged from getting into it. But certainly for the people that are in this line of work and that are already, stakeholders in this field, it's not something that they will welcome.
Yeah, I felt the same. I thought that she missed a trick a little bit by not mentioning the ISA, and maybe giving like a little kind of nugget of, we'll increase the tax-free allowance by, something even just quite small. I feel like that could have really changed the conversation. The headlines are all going to be about, well, they are about rise in capital gains tax, and it's quite a negative sentiment being given to investors. And I think if you're not kind of as financially literate or as financially savvy as some others, then you might be quite put off by it. And it would have been great for her to mention something about ISAs, especially after the UK ISA being dropped.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I wonder who they are speaking to, and this is why it's so important that young people get involved in that conversation, because there is a strong argument that the Chancellor would have been thinking, okay, this is, relative to other taxes, is quite lenient for people who are well off, so increase this tax, but also needing to recognize that there's a lot of young people that are looking at investing, that want to come into the investment world, that are finding it very easy and simple to download an app and start thinking of their side hustle, whether that is stocks and shares, cryptos, NFTs. There's a whole host of things that young people are getting interested in. And if the Chancellor was aware of that, then actually I reckon there would be an enthusiasm to say, let's encourage that even more by increasing the tax-free allowance, by opening up more avenues to get into this, while also increasing those higher thresholds for tax. And that's why I always think it's so important that young people get involved in that conversation, because you're so right. She did miss the trick there, and it's probably because she wasn't aware of how much appetite and opportunity young people are finding in these opportunities.